First large NBA slate of the year, and I'm here to take a look at some FanDuel lineups in the Stokastic NBA DFS lineup generator. While you're coming in, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and hit that notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. Again, I'm not looking at DraftKings lineups here, only FanDuel in this video. I already made a video on DraftKings lineups. You can find it on the Stokastic YouTube channel if you're looking for DraftKings lineups. But here, just FanDuel. Of course, if you sign up for the lineup generator, you will get both FanDuel and DraftKings for just $14.95 per week. And currently, you can get it for 20% off. So it'll be about $12 a week for your first week. For your first week, you can get it for $12 using the link in the description of this video. It's still going to be $14.95 per week after that. Fantastic deal. This is a tool that only gives you plus EV lineups. Every single one of these lineups has been run through the Stokastic Sims and is found to be a long-term profitable lineup. All right, I'm going to take a look at some FanDuel lineups here. And for NBA, I'm starting off, I'm just going to do all lineups. I'll see how that works out for me. I think I just want to mix. All lineups will give you a mix of chalky, balanced, contrarian. If you want just, one of these buckets, you can choose something else. But I'm going to do all lineups and get a mix here. Not going to lock anybody again. If anybody projects well enough point per dollar that they're going to make it into that I want them in all of my lineups, I'm going to get that anyway in the lineup generator. So I'd rather just let the lineup generator decide for me if anybody is a good enough value to make it into all of my lineups. All right, first lineup we see here, 175% total ownership. We've got Tyus Jones, pretty chalky, 37%. Kobe White, pretty chalky, 32%. Jalen Smith and DeAndre Ayton are really contrarian options here. We have a lot of kind of middling in terms of ownership players, and then pretty low ownership here for Jalen Smith. You can see he doesn't project extremely well point per dollar, projects for under 21 fantasy points at 4,400, which would be fine. But obviously, he makes it into lineup because he can spike an upside on top of that. Similarly, DeAndre Ayton doesn't project well point per dollar at all. 32.6 fantasy point projection at 7,300. Who knows? This is his first game playing for the Blazers. Certainly a lot of upside there for DeAndre Ayton, especially on FanDuel, where you can get 3 points per block. That's going to help Ayton as well. Overall, though, looking at down here, it's on the chalky end of the spectrum. You can see here pretty far on the chalky end of the spectrum, but we still have two really low owned components in the lineup, despite the lineup as a whole being chalky. That's the nice thing. One of the nice things about the lineup generator is it knows how to balance these lineups for us. It knows, you can play a lineup that is pretty chalky as long as you have some low owned pieces to it. So that's what we're seeing in this lineup, nicely balanced for us. Let's take a look at another one. All right, second lineup we get here. Cade Cunningham, just 7% projected ownership. Matisse Thybulle, 2% projected ownership. Zion Williamson, 5%. So we have a few low-owned pieces here as well. Still on the chalky end of the spectrum. Still projects really well. Both these lineups you can see are using close to the full salary cap. That's generally what you're going to see on full slates for NBA. It's such a projectable sport that usually you're going to use that full salary cap, assuming that we have pretty good pricing on the players, which is seems like we have pretty good pricing here. All right, take a look at one more, and then I'm just going to save until we get to the end. But actually, no, I'm going to save until we get to a lineup that is kind of in the middle or to the right of middle in terms of chalkiness, just to see what that kind of, and then here we have it. First one we look at. All right, so we have Cade Cunningham, once again, pretty low ownership. Bruce Brown at just 8% ownership. Mikal Bridges at 4%. Scotty Barnes, 3%. Julius Randle, 6%. Robert Covington, 2%. A lot of really low owned pieces here. We still have some chalk in here. That's totally fine. We have Evan Mobley, 36% projected ownership. Kobe White, 32% projected ownership. So there are some chalky components to this one, but you can see there's far more players under 10% projected ownership than we have in previous lineups, and that's why it's showing up on the far contrarian end of the scale. But still, you can see is within 10% of the optimal lineup, so not too far off. Looks like a nice lineup. All right, now I'm just going to go through and I'm going to save as many lineups as it will allow me to see which players are making it into the most of our lineups. And then we'll take a look at why some of these players might get into more lineups than others. All right, so our highest owned player, highest exposure in our lineups, I should say, is, and we have 40 lineups here. We have THT in half of those lineups, 50% Talon Horton Tucker, 47% Evan Mobley, 45% Markelle Fultz, 42% Kobe White, 40% Rocco, 33% Brandon Ingram, 28% Tyus Jones, Apple Valley High School's own Tyus Jones, 28% Donovan Mitchell, 25% Cade Cunningham, and we're pretty spread out here It's a large slate. Not a huge surprise that we are pretty spread out in terms of ownership. But looking at some of these guys at the top, we can see we'll examine Talon Horton Tucker, Evan Mobley, Markelle Fultz, Kobe White, Robert Covington. Let's take a look at why we're getting to these players. So if we click over into, I'm clicking into Fantasy Cruncher, looking at our value scores. Talon Horton Tucker currently has our highest value score on the slate. And this is a nice reminder that you should be running this as close to lock as possible, because we might get injury news that's going to make somebody else pop out as a great value. They might then make it into more lineups and it'll push down some of these other players in terms of how good of a play they are. This is what I'm seeing right now, 5 hours before lock. But again, you really want to be running the lineup generator as close to lock as possible for NBA, especially because we have sometimes pretty late breaking news that can really change a lot of things on the slate. But for right now, we have Talon Horton Tucker as our best value. Tyus Jones, our second best value, was one of our highest exposures. Markelle Fultz, our third best. I think these are our top 5 exposures right here. Fultz, White, Covington, Jones, THT. Fultz, White, Covington. Jones is down here, and then THT. And then we did have Evan Mobley in there and Brandon Ingram in there as well. So let's see why that might be. So Evan Mobley, pretty far up there in terms of our value score at 7,400. And then we had, was it Desmond Bain? Wasn't it? It was Brandon Ingram. All right. So why are we getting so much Brandon Ingram? 8.2K. So he's looks pretty good as far as value, 4.9. So he's, as far as expensive guys, looks like a pretty good value, a little bit lower ownership as well. So some nice things to like about Brandon Ingram. We didn't really get a ton, at least at the very top, of our actual highest projected players. So Luka is our highest projected, but he's 11,600. So there's a big gap, between him and the second highest projected, but there's also a big pricing gap there. So we didn't get, an overwhelming amount of Luka. We didn't actually get that much LaMelo either. I guess we have some better value point guards, and on FanDuel you don't have, multi-position eligibility quite as much as DraftKings. I guess they did introduce it, so you get it sometimes, but that might be playing a role here, that even though, LaMelo Ball looks like a pretty good value and projects extremely well, we just have better like actual value options at point guard. So maybe we're not getting as much. Yeah, I'm not really seeing LaMelo here at all, which surprises me just a little bit. But we do have a lot of our best values. We have Fultz, White, Tyus Jones, Cade Cunningham. They allow us to pay up elsewhere. So do we have anybody make it into our lineups that is over 10,000? Not currently. 9.8K for Domantas Sabonis, unless I missed one. I don't think we're getting any of the Luka Doncic. 5% is our highest there. So not getting the super expensive guys into our lineups. I think that is just a testament to we don't have as good of pricing on FanDuel as we do on DraftKings. We don't have any like super low owned great value options. Our value options are, pretty middling here. Our highest value 5.6x THT at 5,500. So we don't have any super values here. That's why you really want to run this closer to lock, because again, we might have some great value open up with injury news, and that's going to change the entire complexion of the slate. At that point, we might see less of these kind of mid-range price guys and more stars and scrubs types lineups. So that'd be my recommendation. Don't just use the lineups that I ran here. Don't just use these player exposures. Wait and run the lineup generator as close to lock as possible. And again, if you haven't already signed up for the lineup generator, the link is in the description of this video. 20% off your first week. It'll be just $12 for that first week, around $15, $14.95 per week after the first week. So fantastic deal. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm losing my voice now. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button if you haven't already done so, and